Andrew, thanks for joining us as a member of the BTCC Championship winning team, which is a great thing. We've just been talking about Dick Bennett's with your teammate. 2017 for you, a little bit up and down, but you had the pace, definitely.
Yeah, it was, and I've done touring cars. I'm going into my 11th season now, and sometimes the luck rolls your way and sometimes it doesn't. And when I look back on my year, it was my first year in a BMW, first year in rear-wheel drive in my whole time of touring cars. So there was a fair bit of learning to do. 3 wins and the pace was there. The consistency necessarily wasn't there. Some on my part, we had a few reliability issues. But I've done it long enough to know that's the way it goes, and it was a good learning year and excited for this year with the continuity, the same car, the same team, and looking to build on a good solid learning year in 2017.
If you take the championship as a whole, how does it suit rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive? Is there any sort of technical pattern that can be generated?
It used to be very much that there'd be front-wheel drive circuits and rear-wheel drive circuits, and you'd almost expect them to be strong where we thought they would be. Over the last couple of years, that's really closed up. So now the front-wheel drive cars have got very strong at the rear-wheel drive circuits and vice versa. So if you had to pick a strength for a rear-wheel drive car over a front-wheel drive car, it's the tyre wear over a race distance. The front-wheel drive cars work the tyres a little bit harder than us. But you'll sometimes go to a circuit where certain corners, you know, the real high-speed corners like at Thruxton favour the front-wheel drive cars, and the medium to slow speed with the traction-related corners really suit the rear-wheel drive cars. So it's a good kind of ebb and flow around a lap, around a season on which is strongest at which circuit.
And how does it work out in the wet rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive?
Again, it ebbs and flows. The biggest difference I found going from front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive, certainly in the wet, in a front-wheel drive car, as soon as you're off the brake, and if the rear's a little bit loose, you can get a bit of throttle on it straight away to bring the weight onto the back of the car.
And that's what you want. That's the setup you want.
That's what you want, and you can settle the car a lot with the balance of the throttle. In a rear-wheel drive car, you've got to wait a little bit more. You've got to wait for the car to take a set, certainly for the rear of the car to take a set before you can even think of applying any throttle. So I'd say the rear-wheel drive cars are a little bit trickier to drive, and certainly on the very edge in, say, qualifying or a race, to get that ultimate lap time, I'd say it's a little bit harder to get out of a rear-wheel drive than it is front-wheel.
But does the rear-wheel drive car nonetheless still have the traction advantage in the wet?
It does. I'd say not necessarily a big difference. A lot of it, I think, a lot of the time difference would be on your entry speed and your minimum corner speed. Yes, in the wet, off a slow hairpin, the rear-wheel drive, as long as you can get the car straight and get the power down. Yeah. British touring cars these days are running a fair bit of horsepower. We run pretty big tyres, nothing huge, not a huge amount of aero or anything like that, no driver aids. So the biggest thing, I think the traction comes from how you've come out of the mid-corner phase of the corner. If you've got the car straight, got the car settled, then yes, the rear-wheel drive car will have an advantage. What's
the season like for you as a driver once it gets going? How frenetic is it? How much time do you have off? And what do you do between races?
It's a pretty full-on season, and with it being so competitive these days, it's 30 race championship, 10 weekends. And it's quite draining in the sense when you get to the end of the year that you've got to just try and be there or thereabouts every weekend. Yeah. The championship, 9 times out of 10, is won on your bad weekends, on your tough one. Everyone has them, you've got to accept that. And it's just how well you bounce back from those and how well you can score on your bad weekends. But I'm heavily involved in historic racing, so that's what I kind of do between races. We run a business looking after historic race cars. So very much involved with cars, but that's my way of turning off from the day job of touring cars.
Are you going to race them?
Yes, yeah, we race them, and we race at Goodwood quite a lot, myself and my dad. We build and prepare cars for customers, so always around cars.
What cars are you planning to race this
year?
We've
got a little Austin A40 that we raced at Goodwood for many years. Lotus Cortinas, we've got old 911s for customers. Cobra we're building as well. So lots of variety, and I'm a car nut at the end of the day. You know.
Now, Jim Clark, brilliant in the Lotus Cortina, won the 64 British Touring Car Championship. Jackie Stewart, also brilliant, said he hated the Lotus Cortina, couldn't drive it, worst car he ever drove in his life. Your verdict?
I think they're great. I would think they're a bit more developed now than they were then. You know, with the whole scene of historic racing, they're going a lot quicker now than they were back in the day. But anything that slides around, big power slides, very low grip on the tyres we run, I think it's great.
But you're not lifting front wheels anything like as much as
No, we've got a bit more. We've got the dampers and stuff are a bit more sophisticated. We do sometimes lift an inside front wheel, but not as often or not as high as you see pictures of people like Jim Clark back in the day.
So you're telling me that you're quicker around Goodwood in a Lotus Cortina than Jim Clark?
I would almost bet that we are quicker just because of the car. Nothing necessarily to do with my driving skill, but the cars are a lot more developed these days.